Hey, everybody, how's it going? I am a little bit out of sorts today. Got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of work to do. So I apologize if I'm a bit frantic today. Good morning, Ruben. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. All right, make sure I got all my Streamlabs stuff set up correctly. I think we're good. I had turned off a lot of stuff because I was just hosting the Central Ohio .NET Developers Group, which is condig.org, on Thursday. I never switched anything back, so um, so if something's not working, that's why. That's my excuse. Looks like everything's checked though. All right, so let's get into it. I guess a lot of work to do today. This is number 81 of my office hours. So welcome to my office, my virtual office. Thanks for hanging out with me. I got a lot of stuff I cover today. I'm not going to get to all of this, but you're welcome. You start work. My work is going to finish in an hour. Okay. So the nickel documentation page that I started on last Tuesday, I might be able to get to that to try to validate an improvement, make some suggestions. That's what the docs there. So that's docs related. I got a bug report I need to get filed. I'm some transactions work. I'm working on a demo that I'm going to be presenting next week. I think, is that right? Yeah, next week, late next week in NDC Oslo. So I got to work on that and make sure that's smooth and practiced.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
What's going on, Surly Dev? Thanks for hanging out. There is a bang lurk command now. You can use that if you want to lurk. But thank you for hanging out. And some of the things I got work to do as well. I got to create a short video about a couch-based shell. Like, we're talking 3 minutes, but 3 minutes video takes a while. So to edit something good together and make sure it works. There's the famous saying, sorry for the length of this letter, I didn't have time to write a shorter one. That's the sort of applies to video clips as well. So I got that to work on today. So I'm going to do some prioritization, but let's get through it here. The only stupid question is when you don't ask questions. Please ask questions. Do not be afraid not to ask questions in here. This is a safe place to ask questions. Like that question right there. How's it going? It's going great, AJ. Well, a little frantic, a little busy, but it's going great. 30-second latency. Man, what is going on? Seems like Twitch has been, I don't know, just for me or what, but it's been a problem. I'm not dropping any frames or anything. You just pause and refresh, lost the last 29 seconds. I don't know what's going on, Surly Dev. Down to 2.35 now. Okay. Well, that's good, I guess. I'm a member of Team Live Coders here on Twitch. So if you want to check them out, you can go to twitch.tv/team/livecoders, and you get to see a list of all of us who are streaming right now and all of us who are on the team. 161 of us right now. Not very many people streaming just yet. So no, those commands don't work. I don't know what those would do. I can add them to the backlog if you can give me a description of what you think they should do. Maybe just show the link. That might be a good thing. Yeah. I'll add it to the backlog. Okay. So it should be bang live coders. Should show Twitch link. Twitch team link. Like that. Yep. I think I can do that relatively easy with some of the static content stuff. Maybe LC would be a alias for that. I'll put them both on there. Why not? All right, so anyway, we're going to come back to this list later today, and we'll pick someone from here and raid a team member. We'll keep it going. So that's that. Awesome Developers streaming list, of which Surly is one of the main contributors, if not the main contributor. This is a list of people who are streaming. Updated recently, so we'll do a little search here. Ooh, looks like Guadagno is on there. I know from kind of the community who started a stream recently. So we'll do a quick search. But yeah, come to this page, do a Control F, and just look through all the different streamers and what they're streaming about. Here's an example. This all list all little tags and stuff. Bang Surly Dev should show the tech's greatest lurker anyone would be proud to have watching. Yeah, so you can go search for a topic you're interested in. So if it's Rust or Python or whatever, you can do Control F and find that. I like to do a search for data because I do a lot of database backend type stuff. So I want to see if anyone's been added to the list recently who is working with data or databases, because I want to follow those people. So these are the normal suspects. Liz Phillips, there's myself, Matt Groves, Rachel Tapman, Shirley Wu, Ted Young, Go Maestro Go, Jack Mott. So no, looks like no one's new to add databases to the list. So still a pretty small collection of people who are database focused on Twitch. So that's interesting. Or not Twitch. That's the other thing. This is not just Twitch. This is any sort of streaming platform. Brent Ozar, does he do some Twitch or some live streaming? Yeah, he would do a lot of database stuff. All right, back over to this. You can find old video, which is not showing up, actually. Bing! There it is. Go here. All these different links down there, mostly Twitch and YouTube. And one of those is bit.ly/GrovesTube, and you can go and find old episodes of this show. You can leave comments, questions, you can watch them at 2x speed, you can skip through them, that sort of thing. So if you're on YouTube, hello, thanks you for joining. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff down there. I want to give a quick plug out to someone who's a regular here in this channel. It is J.R. Lawthorne, who's not streaming, at least not yet, but he's been doing some cool stuff with Laravel. And you have to say hello slowly for all those folks listening on 2x. Oh, there he is, J.R. Lawhorn. So we just had a little chat yesterday about this, trying to get this to work, and I haven't had time to revisit it since then, JR, but I did want to give you a shout out. This is like a getting started with Laravel /Couchbase project. It's based on, well, this isn't it. This isn't the getting started project. This is, sorry, this is the extension that JR has been working on, forked from an older extension, to integrate Laravel with Couchbase. And something else he did was, if I go here, there's a Laravel Couchbase demo, which kind of puts it all together. And this is kind of a getting started project with Laravel and Couchbase. So it spins it all up in Docker Compose and allows you to sort of develop Laravel locally, whatever machine you're using. So the idea is this will work on Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever, right? Because it's running in Docker. Yeah, you're not a mod or a subscriber, I think, can do a shout out too, Surly Dev. Yet. Winky face. All right, so anyway, these are some cool things. I'm going to copy this over because I want to keep plugging this, and I don't want to forget about it because it's something I've tried to dabble in PHP in the past, and it's something I want to get back into when I have more time. But as I said at the top of the show, I got a lot of stuff I got to get busy on today. All right, upcoming events. This is one of the things that I need to get busy on is the NDC Oslo conference. I've got a slide deck, like mostly completed. I've practiced it once or twice, not enough yet. And the demo I've ran through a couple times. You got to get on with derailing. That's okay. That's fine. No such thing as derailing here. No such thing as a stupid comment either. All right, so I got to get this ready and practiced and complete, and maybe even have some teammates look at it before I present next week, which will be June 11th. Hey, one Kevin Griffin, what's up? I'll give one Kevin Griffin a shout out. There you go. Check out one Kev Griff's channel. Give him a follow. Check out his streams. They're fun. He commissioned some really cool 16-bit style artwork for his stream, which is pretty fun. So you definitely want to go check that out. Don't miss that. Live Coders Conference is coming up on June 20th. Help me test my follower webhook. Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. You'll be a tester as well, and put tester on your resume after you do that. Surly would have done that if he was a mod. Really bucking for that mod, huh? Let's see. How do I mod you? Is it /mod? I don't know. Tell me how to mod you, and I'll mod you. So you'll be quiet about it already. I've done it before. I had Calvin as a mod. I had Coral as a mod. /mod Surly Dev. It's not coming up, but I'll try it. There you go. Now you're a mod. Don't abuse the privilege. Live Coders Conference is coming up here on Twitch, June 20th. Don't miss that. Go to conf.livecoders. Does that URL work? conf.livecoders.dev. Yep, I'll give you some information about it. This is going to be cool. They have chosen speakers, I believe, but they have not posted them yet. So I will not be speaking there as far as I know. But I will be definitely checking it out and hanging out in that conference on June 20th. Okay. I'm just going to take a little breath here because I got a lot to do today. Maybe what's stressing me out the most is I'm working in Java. I'm doing some Java coding, and I just feel out of place doing Java coding. But there's a reason I have to use Java. Hopefully not for very long. Oops, you hit the wrong button and you're watching an ad now. Sorry about that. I don't know. What in tarnation? Yes, I am using Java because... Yes, Java, that Java. I'm using Java. The only reason I'm using Java is because I have a presentation on ACID. It is a bit of a cry for help. I'm using Java because I have a presentation next week, NDC Oslo. My presentation is about ACID in NoSQL, ACID transactions in NoSQL. Blink twice if they're holding you hostage. Not quite. Not quite. There's some hope at the end of the tunnel here. Some light at the end of the tunnel. But currently, I want to show off a transaction. I want to demo a transaction in a NoSQL database, and I want to use Couchbase, right? Because that's my employer, and that would be cool to show off something cool that my company's doing. But currently, the transaction implementation for Couchbase is 95% client side. It's not doing it while on ACID. My presentation is called "Don't Drop ACID," but the transaction implementation is mostly client side. There's a few parts that depend on the server, but it's mostly client side, which means that it has to be. Oh, Maxi Alpha 79. Thank you for the follow. Thanks for hanging out with us today. So Maxi Alpha has not been scared away by Java, so that's good. Java is a very popular language, by the way. It's not, my favorite, not Kevin Griffin's favorite, clearly, but it's a very popular language. And so the official Java, official Couchbase clients, it was, since Java is our most popular one, this was where transactions were first implemented. So right now, if I want to, it's okay, Kevin Griffin, keep going. Keep going, keep dunking on Java. But if I want to demonstrate transactions against Couchbase, I got to use the Java client. They're not available in .NET yet, or C++, or Python, or any of the other ones. That's coming soon. This is kind of cutting edge stuff, so it's coming soon. But right now, it's Java only. So if I want to demonstrate this, I want to show a demo, I have to show it in Java. But the good news is, once it's in .NET, it'll look similar to this, because you see this transaction. There's a sort of a surly dev. Do not block. See, this is what I mean by abusing your privileges as a moderator. Do not block the term Java. That's not a dirty word here. You better unblock that, or you're going to lose your mod privileges. Yes, main is lowercase. Yep. But if you are familiar with C#, this should look relatively familiar. There's a few things that bother me, being a C# developer, that I'm like, I don't know how to, my brain doesn't know how to quite parse it, right? Like, final for one. I don't think that's a keyword in Java. I think that's const or something in C#. Write a bot that sees Java and says, I think you mean C#. The fact that I can't use var here for these, that bothers me, because now I have to know the actual type. But I mean, then the lambda arrow is like it's a minus sign instead of an equals. That's kind of weird, but I can live with that. But for the most part, it's relatively readable to me. It's not terrible, except that it is Java, and the language itself isn't really bothering me too much. There's some things that bother me, but what bothers me is I don't have like all the context of the Java ecosystem. What are these faces? Some rage faces. So like this POM XML file, this is kind of like kind of like a CS Proj a little bit. This is where you'd put like your packages you want to include, like in this case, Couchbase Transactions package, version 1. And so I guess Maven is the tool that reads this, installs dependencies. That kind of stuff is just like, I barely have a grasp on what's going on. Fortunately, Visual Studio Code kind of knows what to do. It helps me out. So the same sort of keystrokes that I'm used to with C#, they work here. Right, so Control F5 will run this program. F5 will run it into bug mode. I can set breakpoints by clicking here. So it's not too bad. Put me in IntelliJ or Eclipse or something, and I would probably struggle a lot more. Okay, but anyway, what I want to show in this demo code is basically transaction. That's all I really want to show. A simple transaction. And the way it works with Couchbase here is you create a transactions object, and you can give it some settings, which I'll talk about in the presentation. Then you say transactions run, and inside that run is this lambda, and everything in there is part of the transaction. All right, so this is an all or nothing, ACID atomic transaction. So what this is going to do is going to update two different pieces of data. One is an account document, one is an account events document. And it's going to see replacing, it's going to get those documents, make changes to them, and then replace them. And you see there's two different replace events here. Right? Without a transaction, it's possible that you leave your data in inconsistent state. So the idea is in a transaction, either all these things happen or they all get rolled back and none of them appear to have happened. And then of course at the end you can say, you can say commit, which is kind of optional, right? You don't have to say commit. And you can also say, if you want to, you can say ctx.rollback, which again, if there's an exception, then the rollback happens automatically. So they're just kind of implicit. Okay, and that's the idea. So this is working now. This piece of code is working. I conferred with a colleague who's a Java programmer today, and we actually discovered a couple bugs that may be bugs in the Java SDK. So not only am I writing Java code, now I'm reporting Java bugs. So I've already got one of them reported. What I want to do next, and I can do this on the stream, I think. I don't think there's any issue with doing this. I just want to bring it up here, see what happens. So Couchbase has uses, well, not necessarily bugs being fixed, but bugs being reported. So Couchbase has, if you go to issues.couchbase.com, you too can also report bugs and feature requests and improvement suggestions or whatever. You submit tickets to the various different products in Couchbase, different projects, right? So this one is Java Client, JCBC. There's one for .NET, there's one for Python, there's one for Node, all those sorts of things. There's one for Couchbase Server, there's one for Couchbase Lite, there's one for Couchbase Sync Gateway. Lots of different projects in there in Jira. So this is, I'm showing you this in incognito browser. So this is all public information. Nothing I'm showing you here is, the Java client's totally open source. So it's no big deal. What I'm going to do next, and again, I want to make sure this is not going to show anything sensitive. I think we're good. Okay. So I'm going to create a new issue here against JCBC. And the issue here, which you can't see in this code, but I was trying to do this, check to see if a document actually exists before I create a new one. I would say exists and give it the account event ID. Okay? And then this actually, it returns an exists result object. Exists result. 17 seconds of lag and rising. Latency, sorry. I don't know why that is. This should be result. Okay? And then I would say, if result dot exists, which returns a Boolean. So Java doesn't have auto properties, so you have to create getter and accessor methods. That's why you see exists here. Dota 2 attitude, hey to you as well. Is it lunchtime for Dota 2 attitude? What is for lunch today? I tried switching my personal site to NoSQL. Oh, cool. Yikes. Yup, eating some cereal for lunch. Which NoSQL did you try to use there, Dota 2 attitude? And so what I would do is I'd just see if this exists and then, return if it exists. I don't want to proceed. The problem is this seems to be exists always returns true. No matter what. You tried MongoDB and Mongoid. It's a Ruby backend. I've got some, if you're into Ruby there, I've got some good news for you. If I can find it, Couchbase Ruby client. Yes, here we go. Until recently, the Ruby client for Couchbase was just kind of a community thing. It wasn't officially supported by Couchbase Incorporated. But just recently, we have started up an official Ruby client again. So this is Ruby client for Couchbase 3.0. Currently, it's in alpha, right? So, if you're interested in trying out Couchbase with Ruby, you can check out the Ruby client. And since it's an alpha, I'm sure they would love getting feedback or bug reports and things like that from you on that. It doesn't look like there's issues there, so you may have to file bugs somewhere else, like in the place I'm creating a bug right now in the Couchbase.com. So there might be a Ruby one. Yep, there it is. Ruby client library. So if you want to submit bugs, you can do it there. RCBC is the name of that client. Okay, so I'm going to finish submitting this bug here, and basically the bug is that exists always returns true, whether or not the document exists. So that's obviously not good. That seems like a bug. Exists always returns true. Where did my issue get triaged to? I notice you guys have many open issues. Yeah, we have huge backlog, and I don't know the exact process. I know you submitted a feature request last time. I did see there was some discussion on it. So the UI team's at least looking at it. I don't know if they go through like a sprint process where they, pick items from the backlog and choose which ones to include or not. I don't know that process, dude. So I just say keep an eye on that ticket, and just keep an eye, see how it progresses. Depending on how important they think it is, it may happen right away or may not. But it's going to be recorded in the backlog. Yeah, J.R. Lawthorne submitted a documentation improvement, which got merged. I don't know if it's been built yet, but or deployed, but yeah, it got merged into the code base. Really appreciate that, J.R. That was a great suggestion. That was impressive. Oh, Doty, you also submitted one. Oh, I don't know. I can check on that. Do you have a ticket for it? I don't remember seeing that one come through. But yeah, the other thing you can do with Frig, not offhand. With Couchbase docs is, well, not tutorials. I don't want to go there. Is if you want to improve the docs, there's a little arrow up, a little pencil up here. It'll take you right to GitHub to edit the page. It's very much like Microsoft Docs, and you can make a change here. And of course, you can go through, if you got more complex change, you can go through and go down to this Improve the Docs section, which walks you through the step of how to get a build up and running locally. I actually did this myself recently because I was doing some more complex changes to the docs than normal. And it wasn't that bad at all. For a Windows user especially, it was just like a few NPMs and away we go. Does the Ruby gem have docs? So, it's a good question. I don't see Ruby on here yet under SDKs. So it's an alpha, right? So they may not have docs, at least not docs deployed to the site yet. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah, I don't see any Ruby listed here. So I would start there. If you're really serious about trying it, since it's an alpha, they might be interested in working with somebody who's a Ruby developer who could give it a try. Maybe contribute to the docs. I can maybe find a staging site. So I'm going to make a note here. You just give me more work to do, Toda, but I can make a note here that wants to know more about Ruby docs for Couchbase and Ruby docs. That's what you're good at, making more work for me. No, it's fine. That's my job. So I need to get this bug submitted though. That's also my job. All right. So what's happening is we've got I don't have any components I can choose from here. Oh, here we go. So these are all the components. I don't know if any of these really fit. Core, I guess. I don't know. Okay. This is 3.0, I believe. Oops. COVID-19 Reliefy. How are you, COVID-19 Reliefy? The color of your font is a little bit hard for me to read. COVID-19 Reliefy. All right. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. I don't know if it's 3.0. Is there a... How do you find out which version of a library you're using in Java? Good. I'm working on changing that name. I mean, you know, it's a good name right now, but hopefully it's a name that will be like, who knows what that means later. You need a version factory. You didn't make a bunch of comments in the science and tech channels, didn't get the subs, and now here I am. I just don't know, because like I specified couch-based transactions, I specified a version, but so by including that, just like I do with NuGet, it also pulls in the couch-based SDK itself as a dependency, but I have no idea where to see that version. I am trying to get a bug reported here, COVID, a bug with the couch-based Java SDK. You can change the color of your name in the Twitch settings. Oh. Can XML have comments? Oh my gosh, what a question. XML comment? I think so. Yeah, it's just like HTML comments. Yeah, it's bang dash dash inside angle brackets. There you go. Okay, one of them might be JSON. Don't quite understand. So I'm just making a note. Like no comments in JSON. Yeah, JSON does not support comments. That's one of the criticisms of JSON. I guess that's probably a valid criticism. YAML, for instance, it has comments, right? That's one of the things about YAML that makes it a superset of JSON. So I'm going to make a note. I don't know for sure which Java SDK version I'm using. I just included couch-based transactions 1.0.1. And I assume it pulls in some version of the SDK. But I don't know enough about Java to know which version it pulled in. Let's see. You've not had an account for long. You can only change it once every 2 months, and the nick you change from is locked for 6 months. So you might not be able to change it back so soon if you wanted to. I think I changed my nickname, like my Twitch nickname, because it used to be my old gamer name. My old gamer name. And I changed it when I wanted to start doing more, coding, professional type stuff. Okay, so label. Anything good there? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to hopefully, assume that whoever I submit this to... Oh, thank you for the follow, COVID-19 Reliefy. And let me know when you change your name, if and when you change your name, so I know, when you come back and your name is, I like apples, that I'll know it's you. CMJ Chris Jones changed his to the original jerk, and now learn that lesson the hard way. So he's now the original jerk for 6 months at least. Okay, I guess I'm running in Windows. I don't know if that's super relevant, but here's how I like to write bugs. I write summary, repro, actual, and expected. So summary is just a quick summary of what the bug is about. The exists method always returns true, even if the document doesn't exist. So repro steps, this is the steps. This is going to be a 1, 2, 3 sort of thing, right? This is how you reproduce it. And the actual is returns true. And the expected is returns false. I know that seems kind of simple. So lay it out like this. Could you submit a test PR? I I mean, hypothetically, I could, I guess. I'm not confident enough in Java to submit a sort of a unit test to do that, and especially that would be an integration test, right? So that's about 5 or 6 different hoops I got to jump through and learn in order to do that. And for something like this, it's not super complicated. Like I think this is going to be enough for them to go on. And the way I can sort of suss that out in my mind is if I've been on the other end of this, I've been the one actually receiving these bugs and trying to repro them, and I have received bugs that are like, hey, the Java SDK isn't working. Bugs of that nature, right? Oh, what do you mean the Java SDK isn't working? Can you be more specific? And so I always think about that. I'm like, if I received this bug and I knew something about Java, would be enough for me to figure it out and reproduce it and fix it? But yeah, I've been on that side of it. So that's kind of, this framework is what we always expected people to use. It's like a template. Not everyone would. Someone would still ignore it. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Dota. It's a lot of communications involved in this sort of thing. So in this case, the code is not super complex, right? So I'll probably just copy this little snippet here. I may even, what I could do probably is create a Java file, which again, this might be more work than it's worth, especially if this has been fixed in a newer version that just hasn't been released yet, or I'm not getting for some reason. But I could create a whole separate program that demonstrates just this issue specifically. Yeah, stack trace. Yeah, that could be helpful too. There's no stack trace here. There's no exception, right? It's just always returning true. So connect. So I'm going to say write a Java program, connect to cluster bucket collection. Okay. And then I'm going to let's see, it's probably be 4 steps, right? So check to see if a doc exists, like so, and this will be doc. Wait, did I write this bug already? Oh yeah, no, I didn't. I wrote another bug that was kind of similar. Okay, doc that doesn't exist. Okay, so you told it to return if it exists. In this case, yes, because basically I want to call this method every time I run the program, create this document down here, unless it already exists. If it doesn't exist, if it already exists, then just bail out. We're done here. That's all I wanted it to do, and that's not working. So I'm taking another. Oh, hey, N1QL Griff, thanks for stopping in. Good to see you. I took another route to do a similar thing, which is kind of more annoying, but that's why I'm reporting this bug right now. Okay, check the result objects exists getter. Okay, I think that's it. Just 3 steps. So returns true and returns false. I think that's enough. So basically, I'm just saying here's the code that I ran. Check to see if a doc exists, like so. Doc that doesn't exist is the key. So it should return, oh wait, no. It should return false. But no, I got this wrong. It actually returns true. Document doesn't exist. It should return false. So this is a short description, how to actually go through the steps yourself, what actually happens, and what I expected to happen. And then I'll put a little note in here at the end with some more context that I'm not good at Java. I could be completely off here. And I think that's probably enough. All these other fields are kind of reserved for the team. I try to fill them in as much as I can, but I'm not sure what exactly to put in. I don't want to put in the wrong thing. So I think that's probably good enough. And create. There we go. So now I've got a bug created. And the whole world can see it. For now, anyway. They might close it or, say, we already fixed that in another release, that sort of thing. So There you go. Hey, thanks for stopping by in your lunch break, Dota 2. GLGL, is that good luck, good luck? I appreciate the double good luck. So I got something done. I got that bug report in. Calling this one done. Okay. So the transactions in Java, I think that's working. Let's go through it here real quick. So what I'm trying to show here, and I'll bring up this, is that I have this document called Act1, count 1. I'm going to reset this to be what it was before. Okay, and I have Act1 EVT. I'm going to delete that. Okay, so I have Act1, and this represents. So this is some CRM data. I don't know if you're familiar with CRM before. Up there, CRM data. CRM is customer relation management software, like Salesforce, things like that. This is some data from a fictional CRM system. And so what this is a document that describes an account that you'd want to have a relationship with. So I always think this in terms of sales who are using this. CRMs are not just for sales, but I just think of that in those terms. So this represents a company or a person that we are trying to, we're having in a discussion with to see if they want to purchase something from us. Full disclosure, I don't know how anything works in sales. Guy from Mars, nickel versus GraphQL. Is that a question? Or are you suggesting we have some sort of throwdown? We have discussed GraphQL on the stream in the past. If you're asking why is one better than the other, I think, or a comparison, I think we're kind of apples and oranges there. GraphQL is really designed to be kind of a language that you use, over a network connection. Instead of REST, for instance, like a REST alternative. So really, the GraphQL versus REST question is one that's probably more interesting. Like, why would I use REST? Why would I use GraphQL? And you can use GraphQL with REST, that sort of thing. And if you want to know GraphQL stuff, I suggest you follow this guy, HTTP Junkie, who is very much into GraphQL. I don't think a day's gone by where he hasn't said the word GraphQL in the meetings I have with him. But GraphQL is something that React would submit a GraphQL query to a backend. Now the backend itself could use whatever to return some data, some information. It may use SQL. It may use a key value lookup. It may use, it may make a REST request to some other service. It may do all of those things, right? So that's where the nickel would be. It would be on the back end there. So JB Nunn with a great question and a very common misconception. GraphQL does not mean it's a graph database. Absolutely not. A graph database could use GraphQL hypothetically. The thing is, I don't know of many databases that are using GraphQL that have GraphQL built into them. At least not yet. I think of maybe one or two examples of that. But yeah, it's you can use GraphQL with nickel. GraphQL with key value lookup, GraphQL with other types of, a file you're pulling from the file system to look it up. What's your opinion on MongoDB? Well, I mean, Guy from Mars, full disclosure, I work for Couchbase. We're a competitor. So, I have opinions on MongoDB, but I'm certainly kind of biased. So I'm happy to talk about that. But just know that, you're going to get, the Couchbase answer. So yeah, I mean, those are interesting questions there. But yeah, graph databases and GraphQL, they're not really related to each other. GraphQL doesn't even have to be related to databases at all. GraphQL is not really a database concept It's a language, which is kind of the same way I feel about SQL as well. SQL is very much associated with databases, right, and rightfully so, but it's not something that necessarily is database specific. You could have SQL queries against any kinds of data. You could hypothetically have SQL. If someone wanted to build this, I don't know why they would, but SQL to be the language you use instead of REST or instead of GraphQL, right? So it's a language. It's not a database implementation. It's a language. So those have often been conflated with each other. Like, oh, I'm using a SQL database. Okay, well, that's I know what you mean, but that's really not, pedantically, that's not really what you mean. Right? It's kind of like saying I'm using a C++ browser. Well, okay, your browser's written in C++ maybe, but it's not a C++ browser. Couchbase is interesting. Do you think I can export my MongoDB to Couchbase and do data analysis with SQL-like queries? Yes, I absolutely think you can do that. So, and it's not really SQL-like. I always kind of push back on that. It is SQL. It is a full SQL implementation with joins and aggregates and unions and insert, update, delete, merge. What do you call them? Common table expressions, window functions. Everything you'd expect in SQL is there in Couchbase. So it's not SQL-like. When I think of SQL-like, I think of Cassandra, where it kind of looks like SQL, but it's just a tiny bit of it, right? Oh, work is done for today. Bye, user documentation. See you tomorrow. Haruhi, you're working on documentation as well? That's cool. Or are you just reading documentation? But yeah, you can export from Mongo into what's called extended JSON, and you can import extended JSON directly into Couchbase, and you can start writing SQL queries against it. Super easy. And if you're doing analysis, like analytics, you can even look into Couchbase Analytics, which is an enterprise-only feature, but it's a massive parallel processing engine to do, complex, ad hoc, and low concurrency, ad hoc analytics types of queries. So depending on what kind of analysis you want to do, that may be one you want to check out. Is Couchbase free? Couchbase Community Edition, totally free to download, deploy to production as much as you want to. Couchbase Enterprise is a free download, totally free to use in pre-production environments. So you have to buy a license if you want to deploy it to production. But you can get, whoa, what happened? What in the world? Did my chatbot? Oh, okay, sorry. I was like, why is my chatbot saying that? I forgot all about the bang Couchbase command. Yeah, there you go. Free community edition there, couchbase.com/downloads. And you can download both free and enterprise, or both community and enterprise are free downloads. You can try them out as much as you want to. Enterprise, you need a license for in production. So Haruhi is writing user and development documentation for a module product my enterprise is developing. So you're writing documentation. Thank you for that, Surly. I forgot all about that command. I appreciate that. See, you've redeemed yourself as a mod now, Surly. We've gone past the Java incident. That's forgotten now because you remember the bang Couchbase command. So speaking of Couchbase, this is a demo I'm going to present next week about ACID transactions in Couchbase. And so this is a document representing a customer, let's say, a prospect, whatever salespeople call this, potential customer. All right, and then what a CRM does is it tracks, you didn't know that would work. Well, it did. I forgot about it. A CRM, what it does is it tracks all the interactions with a customer. So you can say, okay, we had a meeting with them a week ago. We emailed them, yesterday. We sent them over whatever, a proof of concept, source code, things like whatever. All the different activities you can track to manage the communications between a sales team and a customer, I guess. Developers get very grumpy when I ask them for more and more details. But I'm told, yep, that's normal. Yep. We're just talking about this with bug reports. Like, put in details, put in steps. Don't just say, "Oh, it's not working." You got to put in more. You got to put in what you want. What you expect. What's actually happening. What have you tried? Those things are all important details to put in there. And, developers are busy, just like everybody, and they're just like, hey, this is not working. Please fix it. Okay, well, I'd love to help you, but I need more information. How is paid Couchbase different from community? So there's a couple different things. You can go to Couchbase community versus enterprise. Yeah, so you can see kind of the feature difference here. So there's some features that are different that are in community that are not in, or they're in enterprise that are not in community, right? So for instance, support. If you're using community, the only support you have is, from forums or Stack Overflow, that sort of thing. Enterprise, you can actually buy support from Couchbase Incorporated. There's also features, right? So Couchbase Community has a lot of really great, powerful features. So, SQL queries, I mentioned, full text search, replication, cross data center replication. It can connect to mobile databases and sync with them. But there's some features that are currently enterprise only, right? So some of the bigger ones are like eventing. It's currently enterprise only. Analytics, I mentioned, is enterprise only. Those are kind of the big ones. Like if you want to do advanced filtering between data centers, if you really want fine grained security roles, you still have them in enterprise or community. You have some roles, but it's a very small amount compared to the enterprise edition. Things like that. So this is a page you can go and see some of the differences, but it's going to be comparable to any other sort of enterprise community offering other databases offer out there. All right. So what I want to do now is for this customer, I'm going to be tracking the various events that are associated with this customer. Now, hypothetically, I could put them in an array here in the customer document. But that list can kind of grow and grow and grow. So it might make sense to split that onto a separate document, because I'm not always going to be interested in all the activity in this one, user. Because if I get this user, I'm getting everything, right? So I want to split it out into a separate document. But I do want to have some summary information in this document that says, okay, there's been 10 activities, and the latest one was on this date. That's information that I'd want to be in this document. Okay, so what this program is doing here is it's going to create that account event document that's going to keep track of all the different events associated with that customer. Then I'm going to create a transactions object because I need it to run a transaction. So in the transaction, I'm going to get the customer, get that events document. So I have two documents now. I'm going to update them. So I'm going to add an activity. So in this case, send a fruit basket to them, because I assume that's what salespeople do, right? To try to get people to buy from them, they send them fruit baskets? I don't know. But anyway, my activity is send them a fruit basket. So add that to the list. And then we're going to sum up the number of follow-ups. How many are there? And we're going to add one to it, because we just created one. And then the last interaction was now. And this probably should be its own variable. I don't know why. That's kind of weird. Is it date? Interaction equals new date about get time. Does this return? What does this return? Returns a long. Interaction date. And so I'm going to replace that here. There's no reason to get that twice, because there could hypothetically be a second, a microsecond difference between those. Okay, hopefully I didn't break anything, because I don't know what I'm doing with Java. So then I create that action, and then I'm going to replace. I'm going to update the customer document with the follow-ups and interaction fields, and I'm going to replace the events with the new fruit basket activity that I just added. So two different operations. They both need to succeed, or they both need to fail. That's why they're in a transaction here. So I go ahead and I'll run this. That's a Control F5 here in Visual Studio Code. Build failed. Duplicate local variable. Oh, because the stuff that I left over from my bug report. Okay. Control F5. Maybe? Come on. Get the program here. Try this again. Control F5. There we go. So it's running that. and it's going to work. So if I retrieve this, you'll see that now I have one follow-up. So it's called follow-ups, I guess. And here's when the last interaction was. Let's copy this just to take a look. If I go to EVT, this is the list of all the follow-ups. So you see my fruit basket there, and that EVT should match. You can see those dates match just fine. Ah. So if I did another one, so instead of a fruit basket, I sent an email about the, I don't know, the Thompson account. What? I don't know. And this will be an email interaction. Okay? So if I do a Control F5 there, Visual Studio Code's helping me out, running this program, and then I retrieve this over here, refresh, and now I've got two activities in here. You can see I've got fruit and email. So I've got two follow-ups with this account so far. And if I go over to the main document, you can see here that bears out. So follow-ups is now 2. And the last interaction, I assume that long there also matches. So I can keep doing this, right? And it's doing it all in one transaction. The problem is, what happens if something bad happens? There's an exception that happens before the transaction finishes. So this follow-up attempt fails. And I don't know, this is some sort of like fail type. All right. Now, when I run this, a question from Guy from Mars. Does it support all SQL features in query? Well, so I would say the short answer is yes. But the long answer is, do you have some specific in mind? Because the thing with the SQL standard is that it's unevenly implemented across different database providers, right? So Oracle has slightly different SQL than Microsoft, has slightly different SQL than Postgres and MySQL. But for the most part, yes, all SQL features are going to be there. Like I mentioned, select, from, where, join, group by, having, insert, update, delete, merge, all that kind of stuff. Is Couchbase ANSI SQL compliant? I think it's ANSI 92 compliant. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it's ANSI 92. If that means anything to you. Now, the other thing is that it has SQL features, but it also has more because we're dealing with JSON data. So there's extra features in there as well. So there's things that you probably don't recognize from Relational World because Relational World doesn't have arrays and nested objects and things like that. So there's more in there than that. But if you have a specific feature, if you want to see it in action, I can just show some. I have Couchbase up and running here. I can show you some stuff. So let me zoom in. I've got a travel sample bucket. I'm going to select star from travel sample where type equals user. And not type equals user. I don't know what that is. Type equals route. And let's limit that to 10. So execute that, and there we go. So you can see here, I've got 10 documents returned from my SQL query there. That's a really simple one. That's a really simple select. Looking at this route result, though, you can see I've got, let me close this here, airline ID, airline 137. I want to get the airline name, so I got to join. Join, also travel sample, because they're all in travel sample, on t dot airline ID, equals meta dot ID. So I'm going to say t dot star and then a dot name. That should work, right? There we go. So a dot name as airline name. So see, I've joined, so I see airline 137 is Air France because of that join. What else? I don't know. Let's do a aggregate. So we'll say, let's take out this join here, travel sample, and we'll say t dot distance, and we'll say airline ID equals airline 137. So these are all the Air France. Well, 10 of the Air France. I'm just selecting distance, right? I know what? I can just say t dot airline ID here. Why would I do that? Okay, And then so I could, for instance, sum up those distances. If I wanted to see all the, how many miles do they fly, group by t.airline ID. This is going to be a little slower, I think, because it is aggregate. Let's order this by sum of t distance descending. So who flies the most miles? Okay, so it looks like airline 24 has the most. What was call this as total distance? Airline 24 flies routes that total up to 5 million miles. Amazing. I could join to get the airline name again. I don't know why I took that out. On t.airline ID equals meta a.id. I could say a.name as airline name. Which airline? Oh, yeah, I got to group by this instead. There we go. Huh? Name must only depend on the group keys or aggregates. What did I do wrong here? Oh, it's a.name. Gosh. So American, based on my data, they have the longest distant routes. They have 5.4 million. United is second place, 5.1 million. Delta, 4.6 million. U.S. Airways, which doesn't exist anymore, 4.1 million, and so on. So there, I did aggregate and a join and an order, all that kind of stuff, in just the 6 lines of SQL. This is my favorite thing about Couchbase, Guy from Mars, because I've written SQL my whole career, against starting with Access and Microsoft SQL and some Oracle and MySQL. So I understand SQL. I think it's a really powerful, declarative, expressive language. Not perfect, but I think it's really, really good. And that's one of my things about checking out NoSQL, because NoSQL has some really interesting things about it. But I didn't want to have to learn a whole brand new language that's not something that anyone else understands, or it was harder to express myself in that language. So that kind of kept me away from NoSQL for a while. But then I saw Couchbase has a full SQL language, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to give that a try. And there you go. So for me, it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. I get all the NoSQL benefits that are pretty cool, flexibility, scaling, all those sorts of things. And I also get the expressive query language that I'm used to, that most of the world is used to when working with data, is SQL. So they can, it's less of a ramp-up time to learn a whole brand new language and, all the different ins and outs of how that language works, when I can just use something that's been around and battle-tested since the late 70s. So I'm really happy about that. And just one little note, since I'm gushing here, Don Chamberlain, right? Donald D. Chamberlain, one of the inventors of the original SQL language, just to drive home the point that SQL is a language. It's not a database. It's a language. Now, of course, they kind of go hand in hand. But Donald Chamberlain, one of the inventors, the only surviving member of the team that invented a SQL, is a technical advisor at Couchbase. So I'm really happy about that we can have one of these, these guys who's a pioneer in computer science, created one of the top languages in the world, is on board at Couchbase and advising us. So, all right, that's enough gushing. Let me get back to work here. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to emulate a rollback. So I'm going to throw an exception. By throwing an exception inside a transaction, that just triggers a rollback automatically. So I'm going to run that. I'll do that already. I'll run it again. So if there wasn't a transaction, then this, this stuff where I said this follow attempt fails, should be follow up attempt, fails, that would be in there because it wasn't rolled back. So if I go back over here to buckets and CRM data and say ACCT, not offset, ACC1 EVT, what am I doing here? I screwed everything up. Try again. Offset should be 0. ACC1 EVT. Okay, you can see there's still only 2 events in there. Good. And then if I go back to ACC1, you can see there's only 2 follow-ups listed here. So all that data that I inserted was then immediately rolled back. Now what I want to kind of experiment with, because I think I want to go over this in my presentation, maybe, is I want to see what would happen if I put in the rollback right in between here. So we're replacing the accounts. Oh, that's yeah. Java's going to say you can't do that. But what if I was sneaky like this? Java is okay with that, I guess. It says dead code, but will it still compile? I guess that's what I'm looking for. So I want to throw the exception right in between them. I want to see what happens. Okay, it seems to be compiling and running. Okay, so there was the exception that I expected. What actually happened to my data? So you can see here it's still 2 follow-ups and last interaction is the same. EVT, still only 2. That's good. What I want to see is over in here. Okay, it's been cleaned up. All right, just wanted to see if that would work, I guess. To throw it right in the middle there. I might want to leave that in just in case I'll demo that. But what I kind of wanted to show, and this might not be possible, is I wanted to show a transaction kind of in progress to show you how the data is staged. Oh, thank you for the follow, Guy from Mars. Hope things are going okay there on Mars. We got some couple of astronauts. I don't know. They're working on getting their way to Mars, I guess. We're not quite there, but I think that's sort of the long-term goal, is to get to Mars. So we're coming. Do you want us to bring anything? Do you need anything from the store while we're on our way to Mars? Maybe some chips, some soda. Okay, so that I want to tinker with that a little bit more, just to kind of show how the insides of this work, because I think it's kind of interesting to see the staged data. These X adders is where the data is staged, so that the transaction is never going to result in a dirty read, if you're familiar with that concept. So, while I'm in the middle of a transaction, I don't want other processes to read my data, kind of work in progress data. I want them to see the data either the way it was before or the way it was after this transaction, and not somewhere in the middle. That would be a dirty read. So I want to kind of demonstrate that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that just yet. Performance-wise, is Couchbase faster than MongoDB? Let's see. He's from Mars. Doesn't necessarily say he's there now. That's a good point, Surly. That's a good point. Sleep between calls. Well, the problem is that sleep between calls, JR, is that there's timeouts involved with this, and they're relatively quick. I mean, I could set breakpoints, right? But the thing is, it's going to time out, and then the transaction's all messed up. So that's not a super effective way to do it. But something like that, maybe. So getting back to the guy from Mars questions, performance-wise, is Couchbase faster than, or Calcbase is what he wrote, is Couchbase faster than MongoDB? Guy from Mars, if I was in sales, I'd say yes, of course, Couchbase is always faster than Mongo. It's always going to be the better choice. Why would you ever consider using a separate database? But if it takes him a quarter of an hour to respond to that, you could be right. Yeah, maybe he is on Mars, hence the latency. Yeah. But so I don't like to make statements like, yeah, it's always faster than Mongo, or Mongo's always faster. I just, that's really much more complicated question. Let me see if I can kind of help demonstrate this. So Couchbase publishes some performance metrics here. This is totally public, about all the different benchmarks that we're doing against different versions of Couchbase, because we want to see, okay, did this change cause any performance improvements, for instance, right? And so to say Couchbase is faster than Mongo, I have to go through every single one of these benchmarks in Couchbase and figure out what's the exact equivalent of that in Mongo, and say, okay, yeah, it's faster in all these situations. So it's a really tough question to answer. There are some benchmarks like YCSB benchmarks that Couchbase has published. Yes, so with Mongo, DataStax, and Couchbase, you can check out these benchmarks. YCSB is kind of a standard framework, like industry independent framework for doing performance testing against databases.
Afternoon, everybody.
What's up, Calvin? Great to see you. How's it going, man? So you can check out these benchmarks if you want to see more about that. Here's the thing, though. And again, I'm a Couchbase employee, all right? So I'm trying to be as credible here as possible. Look where these benchmarks are published. What's the domain name there? It's couchbase.com. We're not going to publish benchmarks that make us look bad, all right? So, you have to dig into this to see what these benchmarks actually mean. But, I think these benchmarks, the whole point of this, to commission these, is to give this chart and put it in a sales deck somewhere and say, look how much better we are than our competition. That's why you should buy us. That's not how I roll. I'm more interested in the technical answer to that question. So that's a roundabout way of saying I still think there is a potential to be much faster than Mongo here, because the way Couchbase is architected, you actually has a built-in cache. So if I go into this bucket, for instance, here, I can specify a memory quota for here. And so Couchbase is memory first. And so oftentimes you're going to be retrieving documents directly to and from RAM, which is very, very fast. Now, I think Mongo has some sort of engine called Wired Tiger, if I'm not mistaken. It does something similar. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know too much about that. But that's the kind of thing I think about when I ask that question, Guy from Mars, is, well, performant in what situation, in what case? So I'm not going to give you the sales guy answer because I'm not a sales guy. But sales guy would say, yes, it's faster. I'm more interested in, well, what's your use case? What do you consider to be fast? What do you consider to be performance? Or what kind of operations are you going to be doing? If you're doing all key-based operations, it's going to be incredibly fast. Are you doing SQL queries, complex SQL queries? That's going to depend on your indexing. How good of an index can you create? How much data? I better not ask you questions that will get you fried or fired. No, this is not going to get me fired. This is my job. I'm not a sales guy, right? So I'm not out to try to convince you to buy a Couchbase. So I'm just giving you the straight up technical answer here, to the best of my knowledge. I'm not getting fired for that. I would have been fired a long time ago. If that's something that would got me fired, I would have been fired a long time ago. Yeah, it's a. I get that question all the time, Guy from Mars. But it's a lot more complex than just, is it faster or not? If it was a simple yes or no, then why would anyone use Mongo if Couchbase is always faster? It's just not the case. And there's more to it than just raw speed as well, right? So does it fit your use case? How comfortable is your team with writing SQL versus writing the Mongo query language? How easy is it to scale Couchbase versus Mongo when you need to add more operations to support larger customer base, things like that? Does anyone decide to use MySQL or Postgres based on benchmarks? Does anyone look at benchmarks and say, oh, I'm going to use this because of the benchmark? There's so many more factors to it than that, I think. Yeah, JR says not me. It should be one thing you look at, yeah. But I don't think it's the only factor, right? I'm here using Java. Why am I using Java? Could I find some benchmarks that Java is faster than C#? Maybe. Could I find benchmarks that C# is faster than Java? Maybe. I prefer C# over Java. Yes, I do. Just aesthetically. But I'm here using Java because there's more to the conversation than that. So, it's not a stupid question, Guy from Mars. I don't want to tell you it's, ask questions, ask away, ask. But, that is just, when you ask that question, it's just so much more complicated than that. SQL is taught in most universities. Any graduate will have some idea on SQL. It could be a reason for mass adoption. I agree with you on that. Absolutely. SQL was taught to me in college. One of the few classes that I can point to directly and say, this class directly helped me in my very first job was a SQL class. And they used Oracle. It was Oracle SQL, but I ended up using Access and eventually Microsoft SQL. Calvin says, I never decided to use MySQL. It's not really an option. Calvin has some sort of anti-MySQL bias. I don't know why. I used MySQL back in the day. It seemed fine. Sync Gateway was a big pull for me in the Couchbase direction. Yeah, there's another thing. Yeah, there's more to it. Like, is there something like Sync Gateway in a Mongo offering that's going to help you easily sync your data between your mobile devices with just like 1 or 2 lines of code? So, I mean, if that's a huge thing for you, that's going to sort of sway you and say, hey, maybe Couchbase is the better option. MariaDB. Calvin used to use MySQL, but now has been converted to Postgres. Postgres is one that I've dabbled with, but I've never used it in a professional capacity before. Not once. Never been to a project that or a company that used Postgres. So I know there's what I've learned about Postgres is they have some really interesting JSON features. They're relatively popular. Postgres is. It's kind of a weird edge case out there because it's a database that doesn't really. It's not really like backed by a vendor. It's like almost a pure open source project. So it's kind of interesting. I don't have anything against Postgres. I just don't have much experience with them. Okay, so your new job since December has been MySQL and Postgres. Yes, I've seen a lot of your tweets, Calvin, using a lot of MySQL. I've seen your complaints about MySQL. You've decided to die on the Postgres is better hill. Postgres is better than MySQL. That's the hill where you're going to die. Well, there's other stuff. Again, there's more to it because there was a time when MySQL was not kind of owned by Oracle, right? It was, so when that happened, a lot of people were like, burn it with fire. When did you write your first Hello World program? Me? Oh, geez. So I remember when I was 8. I was 8 years old. My parents say it was earlier than that, when I was 6. So that would be 1986, 1988, somewhere around there. My dad brought home a TRS-80 and had BASIC on it. And he taught me how to write BASIC a little bit and gave me a manual, which I don't have, but I have a newer version of, like, I have an old manual, but it's not the one that he first gave me. And I just started writing BASIC like crazy. So that was me. I was either 6 or 8, depending on who you ask. I think it was 8. I started writing games. I wrote a version of Jeopardy for BASIC on, I think, TRS-80. It might have been a DOS computer. And it wasn't technically Hello World, right? It was just, I was goofing around and I printed out something else, right? Hello World, I didn't learn that was like a stock phrase until much later. Okay, so I think I'm okay on this. I do want to tinker with it later, but I think I'm okay with it for now. What else? Couchbase shell. Getting properly surly takes time. It certainly does. All right, so on an earlier stream last week, I was working with Couchbase shell. And it was here, right? LSCB, Couchbase shell. Yeah, it's right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a short video on Couchbase shell. And it is, I just run CBSH, right? CBSH. Yeah, okay. So I can say clusters and buckets, and it's connecting to that same exact cluster I was showing you already, right? So there's those 5 buckets, these 5 buckets here. Interesting, it says Membase here. Why does it say Membase? That's like an old name. This should say Couchbase. Anywho, as opposed to Memcache or Ephemeral is the other type of bucket we could have. So I want to show this off in a quick video, kind of like almost like a commercial. Just kind of I want to my statement I want to make is Couchbase is doing cool stuff, and here's an example of some of the cool stuff we're doing. Come check out Couchbase.com. That's kind of my thesis. So 1, Couchbase is doing cool stuff with technology. Surly remembers going into a bookshop once and taking just a mouse and closing the interactive encyclopedia software, opening Notepad, and finding text files and copying and pasting characters from those files to write a batch file that said "Hello Surly." Highlight nickel. Yes, I think highlight nickel would be good. It should certainly be part of it. JR, I mean, I always try to plug nickel whenever I can. Plug nickel? Isn't that a saying? Plug nickel? I don't give a plug nickel for that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's they removed some of the precious metal from it, right? Oh, interesting. Okay. So my thesis is Couchbase is doing cool stuff with technology. This Couchbase shell is written in Rust, which is something that people find very cool and cutting edge and stuff. So I think that's worth pointing out. I want to plug nickel, according to JR, and then my call to action is go to couchbase.com/downloads to try Couchbase for free. This is supposed to be about 3 minutes, probably a little less than 3-minute video. I'm going to create a language called Evaporust that just deletes Rust files from your file system. Could you do a side-by-side with an RDBMS CLI? In 3 minutes? You don't get it. Evaporust, is that probably some sort of thing you spray on rust that gets rid of rust, right? Like Rust-Oleum sort of thing, I assume, right? or is it a play on the word evaporate? Yeah, there you go. Evaporust, it gets rid of rust. Does that stuff actually work? I mean, where does the rust go? It doesn't just disappear. That would be an atomic reaction. But where does it go? Does it fall? Like, you have to wipe it off? I mean, what happens to it? It doesn't literally evaporate. YouTubers use it all the time. All right, well, whatever. I think we've tried some Rust-Oleum for it. I don't think it worked that great. Literal side-by-side synchronous. So like I'd have left side Couchbase, the right side, I don't know, MySQL command line. To what end, though? Just to kind of show what will be the point of that, though? Highlighting nickel. Yeah. So maybe for this part, show MySQL command line on the right, show Couchbase command line on the left, and then just sort of show a very similar query in both. So I guess that sounds interesting, but I guess a cynical response to this would be, well, why would I use Couchbase if it's just the same thing as MySQL? I'll just keep using MySQL. You use RDBMS now like this. You could be using a modern document database the same way and get these extra benefits. All right, I'm with you there. You use RDBMS now like this. You could be using a modern document database the same way and get these extra benefits. And what are the extra benefits? that you think are worth calling out? Scaling. Yep, I always like to call that one out. I see that as an extra benefit. Scaling because it's a true distributed database. Schema flexibility. Using JSON instead of I say using JSON. I only have 3 minutes here, so gotta be quick. Scaling, schema flexibility. I'm also just kind of curious, JR. Like, what do you see as the benefits of Couchbase over MySQL? And you've named 2 of them that I always mention, but so it's good to kind of hear that confirmation. Scaling, schema flexibility. I mean, that's probably good enough to start with, right? Scaling is hard to sync gateway, but not for this pitch. This really is more of a pitch. This video I'm making. Yeah, sync gateway would be good, but that might be too much for 3 minutes. You know, what I would probably like to have is maybe a bit.ly link here. So that way I can kind of track who's gone to Couchbase thanks to this video. I don't know, might be useful. Not who, but how many. Bit.ly can't tell you who. It can just tell you how many people have clicked it. I think that's enough. Just say scaling and schema flexibility. You think people are going to understand what scaling means? True distributed database, because scaling will allow you to, I don't know, accommodate web, I don't know, accommodate lots of web traffic. Is that fair to say? A simple way to boil it down: accommodate lots of web traffic, as much web traffic as you need. You could describe the problem you hit with high cardinality RDBMS. Well, so the audience this video is going to, just dropping words like high cardinality and scaling, that might be tough. So I think keeping it a little more simple. Is it to devs? It is to devs, but I think it's going to be mostly people who are very new to devs, to development, or who may not be super familiar with, the idea of there being other databases out there than the one they're using. Right, so just think junior devs or devs right out of college or devs still in college, for instance. So they may know what an RDBMS is. If they don't know what a database is, they don't touch databases. Okay, then maybe they're not the audience for this, and it's just an awareness message. But if they are using RDBMS, I kind of want to say, oh, okay, that's cool. You can take those same skills and apply them over to Couchbase, and then you're saying extra benefits. Schema flexibility, you can use JSON, so that might appeal just on its face to a lot of people. And scaling, to accommodate a lot of web traffic. When your server is too small, your RDBMS won't fit. What do you do? That's interesting. I'm gonna write all this stuff down. This is all good stuff. When your server is too small, your RDBMS won't fit. What do you do? It kind of boils it down. Schema flexibility. Let's see. Schema flexibility. This might be enough. So, Couchbase shell is written in Rust. I'm going to just open CBSH on the screen. List of buckets. So maybe I think if I'm doing this side by side, right, then I probably need to think of this as a sort of a table, right? Couchbase MySQL. Hopefully I can get a MySQL client up and running pretty quickly, like in Docker or something. So CB would be buckets. That would be a list of buckets, and then this would be, I don't know, a list of tables. Kind of not the same thing, but we're going to do a KV insert. Just be like an insert. Insert into, and then I'll do a query select. This will be like a select. And what else? What else is in there that this can do? Couch-based shell. List all nodes in the active cluster. I wonder if I could maybe make that part of the pitch, where I just say list all nodes, and then MySQL, well, how do I do that? Maybe just leave that one blank. Like, how do I select all those nodes from MySQL command line? But also the thing, I don't want to be over here just trashing MySQL either. This could be construed as that, like, oh, well, this guy obviously doesn't know MySQL. Otherwise, he'd know about the foo bar baz command. You'll do what? What are you going to do, Calvin? You're going to bash it? Let me at it. Let me bash it. Well, okay, what if this was Postgres, Calvin? How would you feel about it then? Have some empathy here for people who like MySQL. I could just easily do a Postgres command line over here instead. There aren't any. They're dead inside. Oh, gosh. I've actually got a meeting later today with someone about this video, so this isn't necessarily set in stone, but this is a good start. I'm going to put this over in a document that's not going to go away. Get Aaron Petrie on MySQL for some fun. Again, not interested in bashing anything. Video notes. Let's see. I think he hates it more than I do. Yeah, MySQL clearly hurt him at some point in his life. I don't know what it was, but he's got some PTSD from MySQL. All right. Well, I think that's something to start with there. Thank you very much for your help, JR and Calvin. I think I will discuss that sort of split screen approach. That might go. We'll see. All right, nickel documentation. So I've got about half an hour left. I'm not going to get to this today, but I do need to probably make some notes about what I need, because actually we've got a sprint finishing tomorrow. This is something that was part of the sprint I'm supposed to finish up. I'm not going to do that, so what I need to do apparently is make notes about what I've done so far, so that when we move it forward, we create a new ticket in the sprint that kind of just keeps it rolling forward. I guess what they want to avoid is having the same ticket go forward on the next sprint and just sort of hang out there indefinitely. So I got to make those notes, but that's some pretty boring like admin work. That's not really something I want to do on the stream here. But speaking of backlog, why don't I look at this chatbot backlog? Maybe I can add a couple of these things. So like the live coder stuff. Why don't I do that? I'll bring up my dashboard here. Here's my dashboard. And I'm going to add the live coders commands. So we've got some JSON here and a command. One of them will be bang live coders. Check out the rest of the live coders team. Don't forget the surly dev command. What is that link for that? Twitch TV/team live coders. Should I say don't forget to follow the rest of the live coders? I don't know. What would be a good call to action here? Check out the rest of the live coders team. This is so horrible, this interface here. I need to make a real JSON editor here. See, I can't even tab it over. Ads too? What's bang ads? What's that supposed to do? I don't have that one in my backlog. Oh, awesome developer stream. Yes, I like that one. Absolutely. So we'll call it ads and check out the, what is it? Is it called awesome developers, comma streaming. Check out the awesome developers streaming list. Would it be fair to call it a list? Right there. Shows me a random ad from Facebook that they think I want to buy. Okay, and LC alias. So if you think that call to action is good enough, I don't really have like aliases built in yet. I just have a second command. But, okay. All right, go ahead and try it. Test it out now. That should work. Bang live coders, bang LC, bang ads. All of those should work now. If you throw those in the chat. Why isn't it working? What? What happened? Did something crash? What's going on here? Yeah, it's still working. Why doesn't it like that? Is it cached or something like that? I don't know. That's weird. You got caching problems. I don't think so. Let me check. Visual Studio right now. I don't want to. Yeah, I shouldn't have to restart the bot. I don't want to restart the bot. What is static? Oh, no. Hello, Resharper. Where are you? Come on, let's go. What's happening here? Core. Why is Resharper not happy with me? I mean, restarting the bot should probably work, but I don't want to do that. Let's see. Static command lookup handler. There's no caching going on here. There we go. Static commands. Valid static commands. Let me refresh this page. Did it save correctly? Yeah, it's still there. Let me see. A hosted service where I do the little factory. Is there a problem there with the factory? Static message. Use static command. Starts with bang, yep. Mediator send valid. So static message is the command. Yeah, so it should be static message handler. Insert. Wait, what? No, store message handler. Static message handler. That's what I want. Static message handler. As soon as the request is valid, looks up the content. Okay, this is where it should be looking up that document, which we just saw is saved. And then it gets the first command out of it that matches the command. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. See this one and this one? See the difference there? No exclamation points. All right, now it should work. This has bit me before. Maybe I should fix that to make that part of the validation. There we go. Look at all that. All right. Okay. Crossing those off the backlog. Done and done and done. Okay. I missed one. What did I miss? Bang Live Coders works. Bang LC works. Bang Ads works. Oh, no, no. No Bang Surly Dev. That's not happening. And, I think you can still set your profile message, your shout-out message. Like if I want to shout you out, you could set a custom message to appear there. Did you know that? Okay, so this pre-show trivia stuff, this is already done. This is some things I still want to do. Some announcements. I do want to add some raffle tickets because I've got some budget now to actually give away some prizes. So I want to start doing that, giving away prizes on a regular basis. Because I just like giving away prizes, all right? I just like it. So sue me. Not going to be major prizes. I'm thinking maybe Pluralsight subscriptions or Manning books or, I don't know, some Couchbase swag maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Figure something out. Maybe all the above. Maybe a $5 Amazon gift card. Something simple as that. I just love giving out prizes. One of my favorite things. So I need to, a lot of oohs and ahs in the channel there. I'd like an RPI cluster. Raspberry Pi. Send me a link for it. I don't know. If it's within my budget, I'll make that one of the prizes. Yeah, and I want to improve the dashboard to improve the CSS and use a real JSON editor. I've experimented with this a little bit over the weekend. In a moment of weakness, I came back to my office and started to code a little bit. And I struggled with getting them both to work. Like I had a pretty good CSS situation with tabs and stuff. And I had a pretty good JSON editor, but they weren't cooperating with each other. So I got to figure that out. Because what I'd like to see is, instead of these being all on one big page, I'd like to see some tabs across here. So we'll get to that. I mean, people are going to say, oh, you should use React or Angular or Really or something. I don't know if I want to go that, like, I want to dive into a full framework just yet. So these other ones are not just simple static messages, so those require some coding. Someone suggested a hype. I think it was Calvin suggested a hype command. ASCII art is one I've thought for myself. It would be fun. If you've noticed, beginning of the streams, I like to put a little piece of ASCII art up here. I change it every once in a while. I think it's just fun. I thought maybe showing some ASCII art on the screen, like maybe over here, or I don't know, would be fun to do. Somebody who helped came back in and got a good score on a test. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Pokemon Black Gamer got a good score on a test, HTML. Came back in here and we celebrated a little bit. So a hype command would be a way to celebrate with sound effects and graphics and fanfare. Some of the other ones have been hanging around for a while. I don't really know what to do about this bookmark. Sounds kind of fun. Turing Pi. Ooh, yikers, that's a little pricey. Kubernetes, Docker, and serverless. Could I run Couchbase on this if it can run Kubernetes, or does it have to still be, can only run like ARM images on it? Because there's no Couchbase binary compiled for ARM, at least not one that I know of. But it's just saying Kubernetes and Docker here. That tells me something else is going on. Maybe it's not ARM. Open source, let's build it. Yeah, we could, absolutely could. I think someone actually has, maybe internal, at one point created a build of Couchbase server for ARM. Certainly it can, Couchbase Mobile can run on ARM already. Oh, this is, okay. So you plug in the Raspberry Pis. This doesn't even come with Raspberry Pis. Do you use Couchbase? Can I see? Yes, I use Couchbase, and yes, you can see. Here it is. I got it running. If it has Docker, does it matter? I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. I would assume it would be limited to just ARM images, but I don't have no idea. Rudix World, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for checking things out. What do you want to see about Couchbase? Get Jeremy excited about Couchbase and tell him there's no ARM64 support, and you'll get it. Yeah, he is really into the ARM, isn't he? It would be cool to see Couchbase for ARM or for Raspberry Pi. And I know that there are some cloud providers who are doing some ARM stuff. Could make it even more compelling in an enterprise way, in a commercial way. You love CouchDB, okay? Yeah, it would be the demo box if I was wanted. So Rudix World, Couchbase, and CouchDB, they're not really the same thing. They're not really related. CouchDB is something that's kind of merged in with Memcache back in the day and became Couchbase. CouchDB still exists. It's a separate, completely separate project from Couchbase. There's a few bits of like highly tweaked old versions of CouchDB in Couchbase still, but it's mostly not CouchDB. It's probably closer to Memcached, honestly. So if I create a bucket here, for instance, you'll see I got Couchbase bucket, but I've also got Memcached buckets. So it's a little closer to Memcached. But yeah, how Couchbase works is a NoSQL database, much like CouchDB. But as I mentioned, it has Memcached built in. So it's memory first. It's got its own cache layer built in. And additionally, we were just showing this earlier in the stream, I can write SQL queries against Couchbase, much like this one, with joins and aggregates and group by, that's an aggregate order by, all that kind of stuff you'd expect from SQL, but it's over JSON data. That's using the Nickel engine and index service. But yeah, it's still a JSON document database. I feel the pressure from GraphQL nowadays. Glad it's still used. Wow, that's twice that's come up now. So here's the thing, like SQL and GraphQL, they can exist together. They absolutely can. GraphQL, think of that as like a language for communicating over the web, over a web request, over HTTP. And on the back end of that, it still may be SQL, right? So, don't think of them as mutually exclusive. They're totally possible for them to coexist. GraphQL is kind of more of an alternative approach to like REST, for instance. Instead of creating a bunch of REST endpoints, you'd create a GraphQL endpoint and issue queries to it from your React app or from your Angular app or whatever, right? But the backend still may be running SQL, right? We're talking about backends here. This is all backend stuff. GraphQL, for me, that's more of a communication layer between the front end and back end. It's not something that would necessarily be used against the database directly. It's so funny. That's come up twice now in the stream, the GraphQL versus SQL sort of thing. And I don't think it's a versus. I think it's they both can work together, right? Just depends on what database you're using. I think there are some databases that are starting to add like direct GraphQL support. Hasura is getting popular. Yes, and I'm going to shout him out again here because this is right up his wheelhouse. This is the guy you want to follow here on Twitch, HTTP Junkie. Hasura is a I don't know if it's a plugin or extension or what they call it, but it's something that sits on top of databases and provides like a GraphQL layer over that database. So hypothetically, you would make a GraphQL request to Hasura, and then Hasura would turn that into a SQL request or whatever. So it's like a translation layer. And I think right now all they support is Postgres. But they are not going to stay at just Postgres. This is going to be something they create for lots of different databases, right? You can kind of see the process here. Client makes a request through GraphQL, Hasura makes a request through SQL, and there you go. So it's still SQL, right? It's just Hasura is kind of doing the translation for you from your client. And you can still make requests. You don't have to go through Hasura for everything. You can still make requests through SQL if you needed to or wanted to. So yeah, I don't think of it as an either or situation. And we've been in, say we, but I think HTTP Junkie has been in talks. He knows some of these Hasura guys, and he's trying to get Couchbase on their radar as a potential future database for them to support. But right now they're just supporting Postgres. Well, a lot of GraphQL questions for someone like me who's not really into GraphQL that much. But definitely check out HTTP Junkie. He's the guy with all the GraphQL knowledge, and he loves GraphQL. All right, I think I'm going to wrap up. I need to get myself a snack. Hopefully it hasn't picked up on the microphone, but my stomach's been rumbling a little bit. Let's find someone to raid. Any suggestions? Full Stack Live?
You didn't know it?
CTO Life, interesting. JMSWRNR. Marco Bruno, BeginBot. I'm going to guess BeginBot's probably close to done, right? Because BeginBot was on there when I started. Let's see.
It's something like that. It's like style. It's like colon.
Looks like he's groping through some CSS.
Link. On click.
Well, do you want to go and check out BeginBot? Let's raid BeginBot. All right. So if you are a subscriber, you want to copy this little string right here and paste that over there. You can put in your own emotes of your choice instead of those if you don't want to use those. Maybe I come up with a raid command for non-subscribers, some other generic emotes. But I'll see you over there. Everyone say hi to BeginBot. Everyone be nice. Thanks for stopping in, Surly Dev. Thank you for the follow, Guy from Mars, and COVID-19 Reliefy, and Maxi Alpha 79. I appreciate it. Yeah, raid 1, raid 2, something like that. Thanks, JL Lawthorne. Good to see you. Thanks, Calvin. We'll see you over there. I'll be back on Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. Have a good one.
A little bloated for me. Okay, so. Here we go. I'll just do one more real quick.